This video assumes you've watched both the Glitches and Oddities in Crush and the More Fun Facts About Crush videos. The Crush 3D video is optional, but I think it's also worth a watch. If you haven't seen any of these, I recommend checking them out for context. A level that's provided a lot of difficulty in my time speedrunning Crush is a sinking feeling, which is the second main level of Seaside. I've mentioned it in its various reroutes before, but those were for any percent. Me and my pal Golderzo were trying to route the level for 100%, and wanted to find a way that you could get all the collectibles without having to go through the level twice like you normally do. The only thing preventing you from doing so is the puzzle piece, which is located right here at the beginning of the level. You have to jump from the final platform to the puzzle piece, then jump to a ledge from which you can go back to the level normally again. While yes, this is the intended solution, it feels extremely slow, and we figured there had to be some way to cut it out. GZ tinkered around with it for a bit, and found out that it's possible to grab the puzzle piece from the beginning by doing a strange crouch maneuver that allows for more air control. I thought this seemed interesting and decided to mess around with it for a bit. Little did I know, this would lead to one of the biggest discoveries in the history of the game: the double jump. So, how's it work? Well, to begin, there is a catch. Double jumps can only be performed if you're crushed from above. They don't work in any horizontal 2D or 3D situations. There's also a specific timing to it. You have to press the X button to jump as soon as Danny reaches the end of his jump arc. Essentially, press the X button when Danny would normally land on solid ground, and you get a double jump. There is another caveat, and that's the death plane. This is a little hard to explain, so bear with me here. Every level in Crush has a lowest point, and that's directly beneath the lowest vertically placed tiles. Take a sinking feeling, for example. Its death plane is right beneath these tiles down here, because those are the lowest tiles in the level. If Danny falls beneath these tiles, he is considered dead and the falling animation plays. What does this have to do with the double jump? Well, while Danny is falling when crushed from above, if you jump above a pit, then it's still tracking his Y value as if he were in 3D. I don't know exactly how this works, but my assumption is that when Danny's Y value is the same as the Y value of the platform he originally jumped off of, it considers him grounded for just long enough for you to input another jump. However, when you input this second jump, while it gives you more airtime, it's still tracking Danny's Y value as if he's continuing to fall at the same speed. This isn't an issue for a level like a sinking feeling, where the double jump is used in an area pretty high above the death plane, but it starts to cause issues in certain other levels. Take Early Rise for example, where the platform you'd want to double jump from is the level's lowest point. Notice how when I try to double jump to the end of the level, Danny's falling animation plays almost immediately after I input the double jump. For comparison, here's me doing a double jump from the highest point in Merry Go Round, one of the tallest levels in the game. See how it takes me much longer to void out here? That's because it takes longer for Danny's Y value to reach the death plane. Hopefully that all makes sense. It's a hard thing to explain, and even then, I'm not 100% certain this is how it works. This is just an educated guess based on my game knowledge. All of that said, the double jump is very different from a lot of other tricks and glitches I've mentioned in previous videos, because its use cases are near universal. Don't have enough distance to make a jump? Double jump. Want to get slang just out of your reach? Double jump. Need to cut a corner? Double jump. When I say this glitch revolutionized Crush speedrunning as we know it, I don't say that lightly. There's too many new routes to talk about all of them, so I want to go over the ones I find to be the most interesting and unique. And to be clear, while I did figure some of these out on my own, most of the new reroutes are courtesy of the route monster himself, Golderzo. He's seriously been working so hard on pushing this game to its limits, and deserves a lot of respect for that. I've already mentioned the use in sinking feeling 100%, but the double jump is also useful in sinking feeling any percent as well. There's an extremely tight jump you can make from the starting area that allows you to skip the moving platform at the beginning. While this does save a ton of time, I don't use the term extremely tight without reason. This shit is hard, I've only done it about a handful of times myself. I mentioned in a previous video that you can use a certain glitch to negate fall damage, and that it's used in Tin Can Alley to skip pressing a button. If you recall, however, this trick is extremely difficult and inconsistent, and is borderline unusable for full game runs. I briefly experimented with a method involving a corner jump that did work, but corner jumps are usually ideal for 1 block wide walls, and this is a 2 block wall, making the corner jump really precise. Thankfully, the double jump totally negates the use of both the FDG and the corner jump method, making the skip way easier. The big climb was a level that always bothered me. There's a long portion of the level at the beginning where you just sit and wait for these platforms to line up, and it feels ripe for skips. I remember one of the first things I tried was to crush, jump onto one of the platforms, uncrush, tilt the camera up, and then crush again, but it never seemed to work out quite right. Well, with the power of double jumps, everything is now possible. I remember specifically routing the double jump version of this level while I was on my break at work, and internally freaking out in the back room when I realized it was finally possible to skip most of this level. Here's the route. You crush from above as soon as you start the level, double jump to the cluster of platforms, get the crush lock thought off screen, uncrush, immediately crush again to get every platform into the crush, then grab the required marbles to reach the exit. GZ's execution blows mine out of the water. He cut my time in half just by executing better than I did. This is probably one of the most satisfying levels to finally be able to reroute, because it's been a big sticking point ever since I started running the game. A Tale of Two Piers is notable because with double jumps, the left pier is no longer necessary. It's a tale of one pier now. You can just double jump to the right one from the start, gather the necessary marbles, and head straight to the exit. Upstairs downstairs is another kind of small but interesting case, because with the use of double jumps, getting the red marble is now the optimal strategy. When I was first routing a lot of any percent, I always prioritized getting the red marble to see if it would save time over getting the lesser blue or pink ones. This one always bugged me because you had to lose progress in the level to get it. Not anymore. Rush Job is a really cool one, just because you get to skip the main gimmick of the level, these platforms that move into specific positions for a limited amount of time. You can just press the first button to open up the outer platforms, then double jump to the final segment. One of the most insane new routes is Contain Small Parts 100%. Usually you're intended to slowly crush across all these platforms, but with the use of double jumps, you can get them all in just one crush. It seriously looks like you're just using cheats at this point. I love it so much. One extra notable part is the use of a fall crouch plus double jump combo, which gives you just the extra amount of distance you need to make this jump here. There's plenty more levels that have been totally broken by the double jump, but those were the ones I found the most interesting. Now, while this video is mainly covering the double jump, there have been a few other new developments that are too cool for me to not mention. One extremely cool and creative strategy GZ came up with is ball surfing, a technique where you push a boulder to get it rolling, crush to freeze it in place, jump on top of the boulder, and ride it to wherever it's headed. This is utilized in two levels to my knowledge. First is dropping the ball, where you get the necessary marbles, then ride the boulder down to the opposite side of the level and hop off right to the exit. This really shows just how crafty GZ gets with his routes, and comes up with stuff I'd never think of in a million years. The other level that utilizes this is Crazy Golf, where instead of pushing the ball in the hole as the name of the level implies, you push the ball off the edge, then ride it to the bottom layer, saving a bit of time. However, this isn't the most optimal strategy for Crazy Golf, because GZ came up with something even more insane. There was a glitch I mentioned in the first video I made about Crush called Thought Storage, where you uncrush as soon as a thought comes on screen to store its effects while you're in 3D. In that video, I said I only tried it in Sinking Feeling, but I didn't really look into trying it in other places. GZ really took it and ran though, because he's applied it in several levels. The way it's utilized in Crazy Golf specifically is mind-blowing to me. You store the high jump thought at the start, then ignore pretty much the entire meat of the level and just jump to the end, grabbing all the marbles you need along the way. This route brings the level's time from 1 minute and 43 seconds all the way down to just over 30 seconds. It's one of the most insane reroutes in the history of the game. Another slightly less insane, but still cool reroute is the one for 7 Years Bad Luck, where you store the high jump thought from the beginning of the level, then jump up to the higher platform, letting you beat the level without pushing either of the boulders that are normally necessary. One last trick I want to go over is one I mentioned earlier, the fall damage glitch. I explained how I think this works in the second Crush video, but here's a quick overview. Essentially, if you jump off of a ledge that would normally kill you from fall damage and press the L button to crush as soon as you fall off, you'll crush while in midair and negate any fall damage you would have taken. This trick has a really tight window of execution though, and is pretty much non-viable for full game runs. But again, GZ comes to save the day because he found a way more consistent method. I think I forgot to mention this in the second Crush video, but by crouching you can bypass any invisible barrier created to protect you from fall damage. So you can just crouch walk to the edge of the platform, then let go of crouch and press crush at the same time to pretty consistently get the FDG. This is useful in one level so far, and that's Rush Job 100%. Usually you have to go the long way around. Press the button to open up these platforms, then falling down the gap they create so you can get everything on this lower half of the level. This is fine for any percent, since you don't even need to go to the other half of the level with the use of double jumps, but 100% requires everything, so it's advantageous to get to the second half of the lower section first. As such, you use the FDG right here, falling down to these split platforms at the bottom of the level. I'll be honest, I was pretty terrified of the prospect of this trick being used in any level in full game runs, but with GZ's new setup, it makes things a lot easier. Speaking of new setup stuff, I mentioned in the first Crush video a trick where you can instantly crush as soon as a level loads, which GZ has taken to calling Instant Crush. In that video, I said it was kind of inconsistent since the timing is fully dependent on load time, so you just had to mash and hope that it worked. However, GZ found out that after the first 5 ellipses on the loading screen, if you just hold X and L plus another direction if you need it, you can get it 100% of the time. Lastly, I just want to talk about some cool reroutes that I've seen GZ come up with. One level that's seen a ton of growth since GZ got into the game was Gathers No Moss, the final level of City in any percent. I thought this was a solved level for a long time, just to do the level the intended way with some extra fancy crush maneuvers, but GZ proved me wrong. Instead of pushing the boulder all the way around the corner into this little crevasse here, you push it from this spot right here, immediately jump up onto this ledge, and crush to hold it in place. Now you can hop across directly to the exit, no need to go the intended path. I think this route was what convinced me that GZ is some kind of routing genius. In the 4 years I'd been running the game up to that point, I'd never thought about doing the level another way. It truly shows that just having another set of eyes on the game can help come up with some new possibilities. Another one that kind of blew my mind when I first saw it was GZ's route for the Labyrinth, a level that appears late in Funfair. Usually you have to crush from above here, get down to the lower platform, then uncrush and wait for platforms to fall in place. However, GZ decided to forego all of that and just crush from the side instead, falling down onto the platforms you have to climb at the start of the level, at the exact right time for the time stop thought to freeze all the platforms in place correctly. This genuinely had me doing a double take. It's such a cool and creative solution. GZ has been working hard to route out all of 100%, and one of my favorites has to be his strategy for On the Rocks. The red marble is usually intended to be obtained once you reach the end of the stage. You get to the top of the lighthouse and crush from behind to grab it from this tight crawl space, but GZ used the gimmick of the level to his advantage. The light perfectly lines up to allow you to grab it from below by jumping through the blocks that usually block you off. Even as I was making this video, GZ was still live blogging to me about new stuff he had found, and it's really exciting to see someone else just as interested in this game as I am. If you haven't seen it already, GZ took my world record a few months ago, and his run is truly killer. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets sub 30 at some point. It's a very real possibility with all these new tricks and strategies. We'll just have to wait and see what the future holds for this funny little puzzle game.
Baby, if you see me and strike up a chat, double jump on that!